Picture this TV advert for the Guardian newspaper. It was simple, but absolutely brilliant. A typical British high street, a roofer's pulley loaded with tiles leaning against a shop front, and a man working above. A skinhead comes running towards a businessman who's walking along holding a briefcase. In the final frame, the skinhead grabs him roughly. The scene cuts. We're left to make our assumptions. The same scene plays again, except this time we see something different brought into the shot. The man working on the roof suddenly loses grip of the rope holding his pulley. It begins crashing down, and the businessman is directly under it. Dramatic change. The skinhead isn't a thief. He's a hero, pulling the businessman out of harm's way. What changed? Nothing. And everything. Just the angle from which we saw it. And there it was. Perspective. That quiet, invisible force that shapes how we interpret the world around us. It was powerful, and has stayed with me ever since. Now, if anyone still doubts the power of perspective, allow me to take you back to Britain in the late 1970s. The country was in the grip of industrial unrest. Inflation was high and national morale low. But here's the twist. Many people weren't yet blaming the government for the situation. That is, until an advertising company stepped in. Saatchi and Saatchi. Not politicians, not journalists, advertisers. They didn't change the facts. They changed the frame. Their most popular poster showed a snaking queue of people outside an unemployment office. In stark letters, it read, "Labour isn't working." Just 4 words. But that poster did more than any cabinet reshuffle or political speech could. It rewired how people saw the situation. It wasn't just bad luck anymore. It was Labour's fault. It was a message you couldn't unsee. That visual perspective, cold, blunt, undeniable, swept Margaret Thatcher to power and ended Jim Callaghan's time at number 10. With it came nearly 2 decades of Conservative government. That's the power of perspective. It doesn't always ask you to look harder. Sometimes it just shows you where to look. And if an advert can change the fate of a government, just imagine what a single tweet or a TikTok clip can do today. The most profound shifts aren't only happening in our screens. They start in quiet corners of our own lives, in the memories and beliefs we carry from our childhood. When I was young, back in time, we talked about gender as if it were fixed, like your blood type or your postcode. You were either pink or blue, full stop. But the truth is, even then, people were living in the spaces in between. It's just that no one had the language to describe it. Now, we're not just asking what you are, but how do you feel? How do you see yourself? That's the difference. That's where perspective becomes powerful. Gender, how we define it, perform it, live it, has always been a lens that is shaped by culture, power, biology, and politics. Today, the conversation hasn't just evolved, it's exploded. We're no longer asking if girls can be leaders or boys can be gentle. We're asking bigger, thornier, more personal questions. What does gender really mean? Is it biology, identity, performance, or all of these things? Can we change it? Should we? And who gets to decide? These aren't just theoretical questions. They're being debated in homes, classrooms, parliaments, and online, where opinion can become outrage in seconds. We live in a time where a teenager's pronouns can provoke a national debate. Whether you're conservative or liberal, religious or secular, traditional or progressive, we all have a stake in how the next generation understands gender. Because it's about identity. It's about belonging. And it's about the kind of society we want to build together. Let me give you an example of just how fiercely this conversation burns. A few years ago, J.K. Rowling, yes, the woman who brought us Harry Potter, who made reading cool again, made some comments about gender and biological sex that caused an absolute storm. Some people supported her. Others felt hurt, angry, and betrayed. Some even burnt her books. It was a mess. In response, Stephen Fry, a personality widely regarded as a national treasure in the UK, said something I loved. He urged us to listen with less fury, to speak with more empathy, and to make space for complexity. And that's what I want to talk about. That space. That little gap where empathy lives. That's the gift of perspective. Because it's easy to think, this is how I see it, so this is how it must be. But the moment you step into someone else's shoes, even metaphorically, it all starts to shift. And this really matters, especially in a school like ours. Our students are growing up in a world where identity isn't just a box you tick. It's a story to tell. And those stories can be complicated, beautiful, funny, painful, and evolving. When I was young, a boy who liked ballet had to hide it. A girl who didn't like dresses was called a tomboy and told that it was just a passing phase. Now, we're beginning to ask better questions. What makes you feel like you? What do you need to be seen, heard, and respected? That doesn't mean it's easy. It isn't. Conversations about gender can feel confusing, scary even, especially for parents who worry, will I say the wrong thing? Am I being too cautious or too outspoken? Can we go back to the bit where my child only asked for a hamster? But here's the good news. We don't have to get everything right. We just have to keep on looking, keep asking, and most importantly, to keep listening. Because perspective is not about knowing everything. It's about being willing to shift, to pause, to say, I hadn't thought about it like that before. That's how we grow, isn't it? In this school, we teach our children to be thinkers, inquirers, and communicators. But what if we also taught them to be open to changing their perspective and develop their awareness? What if we taught them to be brave enough to change their minds and showed them that curiosity isn't a weakness, but a strength? The real understanding begins not with answers, but with curiosity. Not with certainty, but with kindness. And who knows, maybe we will all start to see each other a little more clearly and kindly. Perspective is what lets us see a stranger as a hero, a poster as a turning point, and a child's question as the beginning of a new story. Perspective, a quiet revolution that starts in our minds.